A-E-1 short.
My name's Lex Sadler. I'm a bass player, producer, and MD from Perth, Western Australia, and you're listening to At Sometime Somewhere for AT1 Radio. Yeah, so I'm part of a night called Producer Mondays, which is at NuBlu in the East Village. And Producer Mondays it's not really a jam session, it's a creative community, right? So it's an event where people can come and network, maybe get on stage, hang, play, perform. And there's really no rules except that we don't do cover songs. So it's all improvised, and we really allow, any kind of influences and genres to be part of it. So we've had everything from MCs to tap dancers to, harpists, all kinds of things. So we've been going now for about 5 years, and it was founded by Ray Angry, who's an incredible keyboard player with The Roots. And I was one of the earliest people involved 5 years ago, and we've just kept going, and it's just, getting stronger and stronger every week. Our night, you really don't know who's going to be there, right? So it's not always about the who's who and whatever, but people do, like seeing names. And we've had everyone from Anderson .Paak to Questlove to Thundercat sit in and play with us, which is really inspiring for the younger musicians to see their heroes outside of the context of their shows in that format where they're improvising. So prior to this, I've had a long history here in New York. I got here in 2007, and I told myself when I got here, well, don't expect to get a gig in the first 2 years. It's New York, it's a tough place. But I very luckily stumbled across this jam session called Freestyle Mondays, which was a hip-hop improvised session in the East Village. Live musicians, a line of MCs out the door, a host and a hostess, and we would just cycle through beats, bars, from 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. every Monday night. And it really opened my network here and opened my musical world here in New York. That's how I met Ray. That's how I ended up now at NuBlu. So I visited New York for the first time in 2004. And when I came here, I knew this is the place I want to live, but I have to leave now. I can't just, continue to stay here. I need to go home, do what I need to do, and come back here legitimately. And at the time, I had a whole other career as a graphic designer, and I got a job opportunity here, and that's kind of what opened the door, gave me the visa. And I was a creative director for a small digital agency here and worked a 9 to 5 and went out every Monday night until 4 a.m, got up the next day, went to work. I did that for 6 years. Every night went to a rehearsal, went to a jam session, just tired, out of my mind, loaded up on caffeine during the day. But, it's the only way to do it, right? I think when you come to a place like this that's so competitive, where everybody wants to meet everybody, you have to show up. And I kept showing up and showing up and showing up, even though it killed me to do it during the day. But, you have to be part of it. This is what New York offers. It offers the ability to connect with so many people in such a dense space. All you have to do is turn up. Yeah, so around 2009, I was in a rock band, and we started to, experience a certain level of success. We made a record. We went on tour in support of The Roots, Q-Tip, and Queen Latifah. It was a Hennessy tour. And I really felt like this was my moment. This was going to be the golden ticket. And unfortunately, it, for a lot of reasons, it just fell apart. And it was an incredible lesson in, there's not necessarily a big break, but a series of small to medium breaks and a lot of disappointment. And that was definitely a disappointment for me, but it also kind of opened the door to the next stage of my career. Just at the time, you don't see it. And I think it's important to not let the losses discourage you from persisting in this business, because you're going to have plenty of them. It was a real lesson as a young bass player here in New York. I didn't have any real mentors here in New York. I didn't really know anyone when I got here. And I kind of had to just find my way and my place. And as I progressed through the scene here, obviously I made close friends that imparted their advice on me. Maybe their journey was 5 years ahead of where mine was, and they could see where I was at and advise me along the way. But, you know, I'm a small city on the other side of the world. There's nothing like this there, right? And you come here, and I really came here with the expectation to not do too much, at least in the beginning. Respect the fact that this is the biggest city on earth and that everyone is coming here to compete, and you're from a small town, and maybe you were really good in that small town, but now you're in a place where everyone's good, right? So for me, my journey was trying to absorb as much from who was around me and listening to them and using that to develop my own character on my instrument and my own offerings as a musician. I feel like now I've kind of reached that, you know, and it's showing my age a bit, but that I was called OG the other night, you know, that veteran status. And, you know, I love seeing that there's a whole new wave of musicians now, right, that come through. And I love seeing the hunger and the energy for it that I had. I still have a passion for it, but it's a youthful spirit, right? And I love seeing that. And I love being able to interact with this next generation that come through on Monday night. And I hope that I can kind of give them that guidance that I didn't have when I was here, right? The guidance to not let the negative aspects of it stop you from doing it. You have to persist at this thing. It'll test you to the nth degree, to the depths. But I really think if you're passionate and invested in your craft and your instrument, then you will find the energy to continue going with it. And you will find your people, and you will find your crew, and maybe you will then go and develop the next Producer Mondays or the next lesson or whatever it is that it might be, because everything is lined up to stand in your way. Truly. But if you love what you do, you'll do it. So around 2013, I got an email from a musical director that I'd work with, that they needed a bass player for Ellie Goulding on Letterman. And I didn't believe it at first. You know, I grew up watching Letterman with my dad. And I thought, you know, one day it's going to be cool to visit New York. And if I'm lucky, I'll get tickets and I'll be able to go and watch, you know, sit in the audience at Letterman and watch it. And I realized that, you know, he was wrapping up his career. And when I got that email, I was like, oh, wow, okay, I bet this doesn't work out. So I said, of course I'm available, but with complete skepticism. I didn't tell anyone about it because, you know, you never know if things are actually going to happen. And then it did happen. And, you know, what I remember about it is there was a real heavy blizzard, and it was so freezing outside. And if you've ever been on that show in the audience, you'll know that the theater is freezing. And we were playing the show live. So, you know, of course we go out to play, and my fingers were icicles. And we were so well rehearsed for this show. We'd put in 2 days for one song. And all I could think about is my fingers are just not going to work. I was in a state of panic, but we got out there and we did it. And it was great. I don't think I told like my friends and family that I was doing it until after the fact. And I was able to you know, call up my dad and say, hey, maybe you'll want to watch this one tonight because I'm on it. And, you know, the next thought is, okay, well, from now on, I'm only doing TV gigs. But the reality is, like, you know, the next day you're back to reality. But it was a great thing to experience in his last season. It adds a certain cachet to your resume when you know, work on television, even though it was a one-off, right? And I've done a few things since then on different shows, but yeah, it doesn't mean that you're the next superstar. It's a job at the end of the day. And I think, you know, once you do things like that, it kind of, you know, you see behind the curtain and it changes your perspective on success and what success is, right? So Now when I've done those things, I'm always excited to do them. But at the end of it's a job. You get there at 8 a.m. and you wait 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 and you wait. And then finally you play for 5-10 minutes and that's it, So yeah, it's never as glamorous as you think it is. I mean, for me, it's like every experience, right? I'll get off stage at NuBlu after improvising for an hour, and someone will come up to me and be like, "Oh, that was really great. I love the third song that you played." I'm like, "Third song? I can't remember anything that I've just done." Right? We're going to an otherworldly place. For me, it's almost like meditation. I kind of just switch off and you're being incredibly creative at that time to the point where it's all a blur afterwards. I wish I remembered half the stuff that I play. I'm sure there was some really good stuff, but sometimes I watch Instagram stories the next day and I'm like, wow, I wish I don't recall playing that, but it sounds pretty cool. And then I look at my face in the video and I'm just standing there with this vacant expression. I'm like, what on earth were you thinking at that time? But in the moment, you're just, you're absorbing the creative energy of 5 other people on stage and then, 100 and something people in the crowd. And you just go somewhere else. The role of the bass player is a very interesting one because we are essentially the bridge between rhythm and harmony, right? So what we do is so influential on the tone of the music, the groove, and also the harmonic aspects of the music. So, my mentality as a bass player is that I have to patiently await certain things to settle musically as we're developing ideas, and then really anchor those ideas into something. And it requires like a lot of discipline and listening. And, I'm really trying to listen and create moments and space within the music because I know that I have a lot of influence over how things are going to sound. And, you can make mistakes, but I don't really want to make a lot of mistakes. I want to kind of steer the ship sometimes in terms of, the vibe, the tone, whatever it might be. So I'll switch between, I might be playing something on electric bass that has a hip hop flavor, and then I want to switch to, I want to get into like almost a house vibe, right? So I'll go to the synth bass, ride the filter as I'm playing the notes to get that kind of 303 acid bass kind of sound or whatever it might be. I'm trying to bring all my influences into this live improv thing because, I love electronic music. I wasn't playing hip hop music before I got to New York. I was listening to Aphex Twin and Square Pusher, and I'm trying to bring those kind of things into that scene.
AE1 Short.
At Sometime Somewhere is produced by Audio-Technica for AT1 Radio. It is recorded at AT1 Studio at Technica House, New York. Follow AT1 Radio and Audio-Technica USA on all social media platforms. Thanks for listening.